Hey pals, Allison here, and welcome to another episode of We Read It One Night Celebrates Pride Month, the part of the podcast where we talk exclusively about queer people falling in love. Today, we're traveling back to old-timey times where our bisexual king Alistair falls in love with his non-binary superstar Robin in Unmasked by the Marquess by Cat Sebastian. Bonus content includes us making fun of way too many people's names, accusing half the characters of not knowing how to read, and Rachel valiantly battling through COVID to bring you this episode. Don't forget to leave us a rating and review and connect with us on socials. And enjoy the show. Need to put down like one of those wet pads so it doesn't get on the mattress. So listener, for those of you just tuning in, Rachel has COVID. She made it 2 years without getting COVID, and now she has it. And she has just sent me a picture of the sweat imprint. It literally looks like in a murder scene when they like draw the outline of the dead body, except it's like a wet spot on her back.
Kind of looks like a demon. Like the
Can I post this on our story?
Yeah.
Okay.
As a warning.
We'll post it on our story.
No, not only have I not had COVID this whole time, I haven't been sick in like over 2 years, like probably 3 years, you know,
well, yeah, that's
because
you
just
haven't
masks.
Out,
yeah.
And masking.
And I don't miss it. And like, honestly, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
I haven't. I mean, I'm in New York City right now. And as one of my coworkers keeps telling me, she just got COVID and just like recovered. And she's like, it's only a matter of time before we all get COVID. And I'm like, me and my other coworker are like, can you stop saying that, please? I'm like, I don't want to get COVID at all. I mean, we're both like vaccinated and boosted, but still. Yeah.
One of my friends who's a teacher currently has it for the third time with
Jesus
symptoms.
Christ. Oh my God.
I had a fever the first day. I don't even have a fever anymore. For some reason, the sweating at night is just like continuing to plague me.
I went to Whole Foods today to pick up an Amazon order because they have like Amazon lockers there, and I can't have stuff delivered to the apartment that I'm staying in because stuff gets stolen all the time because it just gets like left on the front steps. Yikes. So I ordered it to the Whole Foods, and like no one there was masking, and I was like, I would have thought that like the Whole Foods clientele would be masking, but I guess it's just like all like the rich people who can afford to live on the Upper West Side, so like maybe not.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, I'm staying in my my friend's apartment for the month to be back in New York, and she doesn't have a washer dryer in the apartment or in the building, but what she has is a little one. It's like a little portable one that you can like carry around, and so it only does like you know, the smallest amount, like a quarter of a load, like per run. But also, like, every wash cycle is 15 minutes. So it's like you can do it fast. But I was just like, what an experience this is. Like,
oh, I know.
I had to like take it into the bath. Well, first I had to call her and I was like, how does this work? Because I don't want to flood your apartment if I'm doing this wrong.
I remember discovering those things existed like a while back and being like so amazed and being like, why don't we all use these? Like and then I realized like how inconvenient and annoying they actually are.
I mean, it's not that bad. I only really have to do 2 loads
compared to a normal, but you have to like put it, you have to like disassemble it and like put it in like store it, right?
I mean, no, it's like literally just like all one thing. I mean, I don't know if other ones you have to disassemble, but this one, it was like she just put it in her closet and I just took it out of her closet, walked it 5 feet to the bathtub and put it in the bathtub. All right. Anyway, come on. We're on a tight deadline.
Okay. All right.
I have to go play Catan tonight.
Let's get to it. I have to go sweat my ass off today.
I'm sweating my ass off as well because this living room doesn't have air conditioning and it's 90 degrees in New York today. The underboob is insane.
But are you sweating your ass off and simultaneously cold? Because
no, yes, there is that. Okay, today we're doing Unmasked by the Marquess by Cat Sebastian, which takes place in England, so presumably no one's sweating their ass off in this book. Because England has a very mild temperature.
Still like would manage to somehow. Like it would be completely unnecessary, but it would be like 71 degrees and they're wearing like 17 winter coats and like die of heat exhaustion.
Well, yeah. But also it was a lot colder then. Like the Thames still froze over during the Regency period, which is when this book takes place. And it takes place during the spring because it takes place during the London season. Anyway, that's way too much information. This book, happy third episode of Pride. This book is about
Woohoo.
a bisexual man and a non-binary person. A note about that, the Cat Sebastian does have like an author's note at the end of the book in which she's basically like, you know, I used she, her pronouns in the book because like that's what felt right. And also she's like, I don't think the character would have minded. But when I like talk about the character outside the book, I use they them pronouns. So we're going to try to use they them, but also, you know, sometimes the character is dressed like a man and sometimes the character is dressed like a woman and like presenting as that. So sometimes it's necessary to use he, she. And also Rachel had a good point that it's like very likely that this character uses would use she, they pronouns.
No, I'm not saying she necessarily would. I'm just saying it's not out of the realm of possibility. Like,
right. Well,
like,
but I mean, the author's note does kind of imply it because Cat Sebastian is like, she wouldn't have minded if like me using she, her pronouns. So like it does imply that like she is non-binary, but would also potentially use she, her. Anyway, this character, I'm going to call them Robin the entire time because that's like their preferred name.
Well, that's the love interest preferred name for them.
No, but it's also the only name that feels right to them. Like they do have a thought where they're like, oh, like, so their birth name is Charity Church because they were like a foundling or whatever.
Yeah.
And like, you know, British religious people are, I guess, horrible at giving names to people. And then they've been living for the past like 5 years as someone named Robert Selby, who was like their ex-lover / childhood friend. And like they're now in London with Robert, the real Robert's sister, Louisa, to like get Louisa married up. But just as a side note, if you want more information about gender nonconforming people in historical times, I recommend the book Female Husbands by Jen Manion. It's really interesting. Non-binary people have existed for all of history. And another thing I like about this book is that it is a retelling of Frederica by Georgette Heyer. I don't really care. For those of you that don't know Georgette Heyer, you lucky bastards, you. She is considered by many to be the godmother of modern historical romance. She was like super prolific, but also was like wildly bigoted in many, many ways. Particularly, she's like super anti-Semitic, but she also like, you know, all of her books are just like white straight people and like not even acknowledging that other people exist. But the reason I bring this up is because I think Georgette Heyer would be so angry that someone had rewritten one of her most popular novels as like a super queer book. Like she's fucking fuming down in the flames of hell where she inevitably went. She's like, oh, fuck my God. And Cat Sebastian is just like sitting in her chair, stroking her like presumed cat that she has at all times. Like, I just love it. Like, the best way to like piss off a bigot through literature is to write a book based on their story that they would absolutely despise.
So is the original just like woman, like a more like a, you know, Mulan without like recognizing any of the like?
No, the woman is not at all the original. There's no gender.
Oh,
it's someone named Frederica who's like the oldest sibling, and she's like distant cousins of some like Marquess, and she's like, hey, can you help me get my sister married so that like my siblings, and can you like help my brother? Like she has like a lot more siblings too. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting because the character does go by Freddie a lot of the time. So like even the original story has that sort of like gender neutral main character. Although she's like, yeah, she's always explicitly a woman.
Oh, thanks for that background. I totally forgot about that. I remember you told me when you were originally reading this like a while back, but
well, because when I originally reading it, I was like, this is so familiar. Like, have I read this book before? Like, what the heck? And then I like went searching in the Goodreads reviews and someone was like, it's a Frederica retelling. And I was like, there it is. There it is.
Nice. So, all right. With that, should we launch in?
Yes.
Okay. So I spent the first like 3/4 of this book just being like, very done with our hero here because he's just so like 3/4 of the way through he just has this like brain blast where he's like, other people have feelings. Like I can have empathy for like but it's even worse than like an Anthony Bridgerton or something because like he quite literally. I mean, it's so he had basically.
Okay, wait. So his name is Alistair, the Marquess of
Yeah,
Pembroke,
Alistair.
which is an evil name, which is already like a dickhead name.
It's
Like
not a dickhead. It's a
Alistair,
very
but
like trendy
Alistair is
name.
like I feel like it's always like I think I may be thinking of in What a Girl Wants, the Amanda Bynes movie, like the evil
that's true. It's true.
old man is named Alistair.
However, I think I told you this when we were moving you out of your apartment like last month in New York. I was walking down the street. I see what I'm saying is that conception of Alistair, I don't think is going to age very well because it is becoming so popular. I was walking down the street and I overheard like two little boys run into each other. And one of them was like, "Hey, Alistair," to the other one. And like this Alistair would definitely like 10 years ago, hands down, would have been a Colton. 10 years before that would have been a like, I don't even fucking know, like Brant or something, you know, like whatever the fuck they're naming kids back. It was that kind of kid. Not, you know, he was not like a, I don't know, centuries old vampire and or like evil British lord, like miniature child. He was a very like,
but he was like, my daddy drives a Rolls Royce.
no, not like that. Like a 10-year-old who looks like he's gonna grow up and play like varsity football. You know what I mean? Like a bro kid. Like not to be judging. I'm not trying to judge 10-year-olds. I'm just saying. I'm just trying to give you like an idea here.
Okay.
A Colton and an Alistair to me. Yeah, Alistair is becoming the new Colton. Is what I'm saying. As bizarre as that sounds,
you should trust Rachel's name trends. As we stated before, she is a long time behind the name.com.
Or it's not right to say it's becoming the Colton because I feel like Colton is a specific type of like name. It's more just like becoming very popular. So its horizons are going to be very much broadened from like any singular narrow stereotype of what you might think. Anyway, Alistair, his whole thing is that he's obsessed with like keeping his family's estate, getting it into the black, like getting it into the good books of money wise, because he sees his dad, you know, the black red. Does that make sense? Like
I know what that means.
Okay,
it was just like getting it into the good books money wise was laughing.
Because his dad, as far as Alistair thinks, has like he ran it into the ground.
I mean, he died. Objectively. Everybody admits that.
Yeah. But the reason that Alistair's like, it's because he was such a profligate and he had all these mistresses. He really only had one mistress. And he just wasted all this money on his mistress and his children. Like he wasted money feeding his other children that weren't me. How dare he?
And he has a lot of like propriety. He's very stuffy. He's like a fuddy-duddy.
Yeah, he's just obsessed with doing the opposite of what his dad would have done in any given scenario, which is to have fun and spend money. So he has to do the opposite.
Listen, okay. So his father's former mistress, Mrs. Allenby, who I could not stop picturing as Portia Featherington because her name is Portia, and also like she and her children all have ginger hair. So I was like, it's Portia Featherington and the three Featherington sisters. That's what I'm imagining. But his father's mistress, he is like slut shamey with her, and he is like obsessed with propriety, and he does eventually get over that. But I do understand him to an extent because, like, yes, the dad was like, you know, did love the mistress, and he was like just taking care of his other family. But he like that doesn't mean he still wasn't a shitty dad, and he still did like run the estate into the ground. Like that, like the mistress, sure. Mrs. Allenby is like, oh no, like I loved him, but like he was fucking the worst with money. Like he would have ruined everything. And on one hand, I'm like, oh no, poor Marquess, he's lost all his money, boo-hoo. But on the other hand, like Regency era estates aren't just like rich people like living in big houses. They're like a lot of farmers that need the rich people to be able to, you know, fix their roofs and like make the roads and like pay for local schools and churches and like take care of the community. And if like the estate is ruined, then like the Marquess can't do that. Sure, and it's implied that like Alistair is like, I want to be able to do that, but the estate has not been financially solvent because of all the spending that my dad did.
Yeah, I think it's just an overcorrection and him like, because the outcome was bad for the estate, quote unquote, like he just assumes that all his father's motivations must have been bad too.
Oh yeah. No, I mean that is definitely something he has to unlearn, but I feel like he's not like completely like just being a closed-minded dick. Like he does have some reason for like disliking his dad. His dad doesn't seem like he was a great dad.
Yeah, it's unclear. We do get that like, at least from Alistair's younger brother Gilbert, that like the mom didn't really care and like was like, fine with it. It was just like, go live your life or whatever. So it's not like, so yeah, unclear. But no matter what, the truth is Alistair has completely steered in the as far as he can in the opposite direction, to the extent that when Mrs. Allenby, his father's basically widow, like I would call him his father's widow at this point.
Yeah.
And she's only a few years older than Alistair, which is kind of fucked, honestly.
Which is a little creepy.
Which puts her at like, because at first I thought they were the same age, but even if she's a few years older, that puts her at like 17 when she had her first child, which means
well, she's like 30, he's 34, she's 36. So yeah, she was like 18, but like 17 when she got pregnant. Yeah. Probably.
But first I was thinking 15, so it's a little better, but not
it's still creepy.
But anyway, she comes in and she's like, hey, Alistair, my oldest daughter, she's going to be coming out soon. And your dad gave us like plenty of money. Like, don't worry about that. But it would be cool if you would like help us out by just like getting her invited to some like parties or something. And he is just like, ha 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 ha. No. Absolutely not. And
well, he's like, well, she hosts like weekly salons where she like entertains the brightest cool poets and scholars or whatever. Yeah, she's super fucking cool. I love Portia. She's just like Mrs. Featherington. She's the bomb.com. She does not give a fuck. But he's like, well, like, don't you have like, you basically exist like on the very, very edge of like super cool society. So like, why do you need me to introduce her? And she's like, well, she's becoming a bit of a blue stocking. Like, she just likes to read too much and she's like too smart. And I'm like kind of worried. She's like, basically I want her to hang out with the ton because the ton are really stupid and I'm hoping some of that will rub off on her. Yeah. She just absolutely comes in and just roasts the aristocracy.
No, that is, I forgot about that. I know. Every time, yeah.
That's what I've noticed with Cat Sebastian's books in general, is that every single book of hers that I've read is like, her motto is like, queer people eat the rich. Like, that is her thesis for every single book. She's like, you have to like give up all your wealth in order to be worthy of love. Or like use your wealth for good.
Isn't that's not Cat Sebastian, that's Jesus. Like, that's the Bible.
Oh, sure, but I'm saying like every single one of it's like, here are queer people and here is one queer person being like, hey, rich people suck, and here is the other rich queer person learning, oh yeah, rich people do suck, I better use my money for good. And I love it. She's like, I have a brand and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah. So after kicking out Mrs. Allenby, he also finds out that his younger brother has been like hanging out with the Allenbys. Like, he's chill with
Gilbert.
Gilbert, dummy.
I fucking hate Gilbert. He's a disgrace to the name Gilbert. Gilbert Blythe does not deserve this association of this man's name.
I don't know who that is, but
Gilbert Blythe from Anne of Green Gables.
Oh yeah, I have very little familiarity with that to this day.
We should watch the miniseries anyway.
You don't understand the amount of times in my life I've like had the opportunity to watch the miniseries and it's just not going to materialize.
I think you would enjoy it. I think we should do it after we watch
Gilbert
Persuasion.
Is frankly horrible. It gives
horrible.
It tastes like pickles in a bad way. which is a hard thing to do.
We're really roasting names on today's episode.
I like the name Alistair, for the record. Like, I think it's a very nice name.
I don't. Again, I mean, it's because I associate it with the
problem
villain
is
from
it's
What
one
a
of
Girl
those
Wants.
names that I'm not totally sure how to pronounce. Like, every time I'm not sure what shape my mouth is supposed to take on the last syllable, even to this day.
Alistair.
Like, Alistair.
It's spelled Alastair, but I pronounce it Ali. No, it's spelled, at least in this book, ALA.
Oh, that's wrong. That's not the right spelling. Maybe it's an alternative spelling, but it's not like the standard spelling.
Maybe not. I really spell it very inconsistently in my notes, so I don't know what I'm talking. But I remember, like, I looked up the spelling.
It's like your name, Allie, and then stair, like stairs.
Yeah, allegedly.
Oh, Alistair is an alternative Scottish spelling. I take that back.
Wow. Anyway, so Mrs. Allenby is like, well, I tried. No sweat off my back. I really don't care what you think. Again, we have plenty of money. And she puts us off.
Sorry. I would just like to say that I, in my notes, was spelling it Alastair. So I don't know where I was getting that from. I'm sorry. I would like to formally apologize to all this.
I would like to issue a formal apology. That is on theme with the book, because early in the book, like, Alistair is like, he apologizes twice to Robin. And he's like, wow, I've never apologized for anything in my life. And now I've done it 2 times. All right. The Goodreads description spells it Alistair.
What's the truth? How does the Harry Potter character spell it? I think with an I. Maybe not. I don't know.
The Harry Potter character is a whole other thing. A Harry Potter character is Alastor. Alastor.
way.
Yeah.
Fuck.
We have a third spelling in the mix.
Oh, behind the name has like at least 3 more that I saw just at a glance.
I mean, I mean, stare,
Anyway.
even just the word stare has like a million different ways to
Yeah.
spell it.
Oh, man.
Stores, or whatever. Anyway, Mrs.
Okay.
Allenby leaves, and some dude named Robert Shelby shows up, and this is Robin. Woo! And Robert Shelby is like, hey, your
Selby.
shitty former dad. What?
Selby.
Oh, yeah, Selby. Oh, yeah, it kept auto-correcting to Shelby. And I know. Robin is like, hello. He's not Robin yet. Alistair hasn't named him Robin, or them, but Robin is like, hello, your shitty former dad was my sister's godfather. Would you please invite us to a party, because my sister is so hot and also really dumb, and I don't want her to like marry some loser boy dude. I would like her to marry well, please. Thank you. And the reality is, like we said, that Louisa is actually Robin's like fake sister, but also like Robin like basically raised Louisa as well. So like they're kind of Louisa's pseudo mother, because they like basically raised Louisa since Louisa.
Oh yeah, she was brought. The reason she came to live with, or the reason that Robin came to live with Louisa and Robert as a 10-year-old was to basically raise Louisa, which is so fucked. And then she just like gets dragged into that role and gives up like don't even get me started on Louisa. Louisa can fucking like burn in hell, honestly.
God.
Like, no, it's like
she's a child.
Louisa,
we do have to remember that she's a child.
Louisa, listen, and their age gap is exactly the same as Kate and Edwina. It's Edwina in the show is Louisa. She's not as bratty, but like
that's
she kind of she's.
It was very much Edwina in the show, and I had some thoughts about this that we can get to when we actually get to the part when Louisa is like annoying people. But yeah, Alistair is basically like, no, I will not help you, and also I do not find you attractive at all, and that has nothing to do with why I am approaching you within sniffing distance, so that I can take in your delicious scent of lemon drops and freshly cut grass.
Yeah, he's just like immediately like, why did you smell so good? Like, why are you so the number of times the word charming is used.
He compared, like, Alistair compares Robin's laugh to like champagne bubbles, and he's constantly like, why do I want to run my fingers through his devilishly long hair? I don't understand.
He's like, normally I'm just like, it's second nature to me to just like spit out rejections, but I just can't bring myself to do that. He kicks him out, but then he talks to like, so there's these like annoying ants like floating around in the background here. And basically he's like, he doesn't like the ants.
And then Alistair and Gilbert are taking a walk in the park, and Gilbert is like, Aunt Pettigrew is like thinking under the impression that you're holding a come out ball for Amelia Allenby. And Alistair is like, no, but also now this is kind of appealing because it would piss off my aunts and I don't like them at all.
Yeah, he's like, wait, the fact that they agree with me makes me question this decision.
Like, And then he sees Robin and Louisa in the park, and Louisa has lost her bonnet strategically. And all the men are like, oh my God, a woman whose hair is out. Marry me immediately. I am so filled with lust. Including Gilbert, who's immediately in love with her.
Louisa is hot, to be fair, Gilbert.
Louisa is objectively hot, but they're also like, it's just really, again, like I love historical romance. It's like woman takes off glove, and it's like a man immediately creams in pants because he's never seen a bare hand before. So then Alistair is like, look at Robin. He's so charming.
No, he does. So he sees Louisa. I like this. He sees Louisa lose her bonnet, and he's like, wow, that's the prettiest girl I've ever seen, but no reason to stop. My horse keeps trotting along. Then he notices Robin standing there, and he's like,
that's the prettiest boy I've ever seen.
Horse hooves squealing. Yeah.
Yeah, skid marks in the dirt of like Rotten Row. Hyde Park, like a cloud of dust goes off in Hyde Park. It's like he almost collides with 10 different carriages.
Yeah.
And then he goes up and he's like, all right, Robert Selby, I'll help you because I am a generous dude. And Robin is immediately like, okay, like what's in it for you, bro? I see which way this game is played. Like, I'm not falling for your wily tricks. And Alistair's intention is to basically, he's like, well, I'm going to invite them. And then obviously, because Louise is a country bumpkin, she's going to fuck up somehow. And then no one will ever ask me for a favor ever again. Woohoo. But he doesn't say that to Robin. He's just like, listen, I'm going to invite you both to a ball. And then I'm going to dance with Louisa. And then everyone will want to be with her. And Robin says, is nobility a sort of contagion? Like lice or influenza?
Or COVID.
And I, in my head, was like, yes, that's true.
He's like, oh, it's really that easy to catch it? Like, all you need is one dance?
All you need
wow.
is a dance.
Wow, excuse me, Mr. High and Mighty.
Alistair is like so mad that he finds him both funny and attractive. He's like, I will not laugh at that. I must keep a straight face.
And Alistair's whole scheme is that he's like Louisa is so new to society, like she'll definitely make a mistake like a week after the ball and become a pariah, and like that'll teach anyone who wants to ask me for a favor to do that or whatever. And also it'll piss off my half sister's mom because like Louisa's prettier than my half sister, haha. And I was immediately like, wait, like if you just were publicly, you help this girl and then she like fucks up, isn't that going to reflect badly on you? But it takes him another 10 pages to be like, wait a second, this might reflect badly on me.
He's such a knucklehead. He like thinks he's so like grumpy and competent and like he has everything together. And then like just from the minute he meets Robin for the first time, like his brain just fully short circuits and he like never has a coherent thought ever. He's like, all of my thoughts are, how can I hang out with Robin more? And I will not consider any of the consequences. No. So he invites everyone to a dinner party. And at their dinner party, he realizes that Louisa and Robin are like actually competent and not just country bumpkins. And he's like, fuck. Also, fuck, I can't stop smiling at Robin. And fuck, I like how he laughs. And then he's like, Robin, why don't you join my gentleman's club, Whites? No reason, definitely not that I get very angry at thinking of you joining any other gentleman's club. You must come to White's and hang out with me and also my friends, not just me, but like definitely just me. And he's just so like,
and then
he's so upset.
He like puts on his glasses because he's like, I'll be damned if I pass up a chance to see this fellow in sharp focus.
And what I do like is that he makes a move on Robin even when he still thinks Robin is a man. Because, and it's like, he's very open. He's like, yeah, I like men and I like women and it's cool. And he like, I mean, he doesn't like kiss him, but he kind of like he does the classic like, oh, like reach the arm around the couch to like
I caught a fish and it was this big.
And this is when he gives Robin their name. And I like it that he's the one that like gives Robin a name, because Robin's whole thing is like, well, I don't feel like Charity Church because I haven't lived as Charity for a long time. And also I don't feel like a woman, but like, I feel wrong going as Robert because it's not my name. And like, I'm stealing it's
my dead best friend's name. Like, I just
feel
like
I person. Like feel, and I'm like, and they're keeping those, like the estate is entailed, which for those of you who haven't watched every adaptation of Pride and Prejudice and read the books, means that when an estate is entailed, it means that it can only be inherited by a man. Like the women can't inherit it.
Well, that's if it's entailed in male's heir. Okay. Entailed just means that some old person many generations ago just gets to decide who will inherit for years down the line after they're dead.
Yeah, but like they can't just like sell it off. You can break an entail, but it usually requires like 2 to 3 generations of people all agreeing to break the entail. Anyway, so this estate is entailed to the male line. So there's like some distant cousin who's like being basically kept like deprived of his inheritance.
Well, did you actually feel like they were doing something bad here?
Oh no. Okay, I was like, good. Fuck this guy. The way you said it,
because they're constantly like, oh, we feel so bad, like this is the real, we're stealing, and I'm like,
I mean, they are committing fraud. They're like, we could be hanged for this.
Yeah,
like, that is a real
which
threat.
Is insane. But I'm like, I don't know, like maybe if there was any indication that like the cousin was like, you know, destitute, in need of the money. Yeah, exactly. Or like somehow, like, I don't know. I'm just like, really?
Yeah. No, I don't feel bad because I'm like, oh no, the man who is definitely fine financially, and even if he weren't, could definitely get a job if he wanted to, is being withheld from this property, which isn't even like that lucrative by these women who could not get a job or do anything if they didn't, like, who would literally be in the poorhouse. Like, oh yeah, no, I did not. There was never a point where I was like, poor cousin Clifton, much begrieved cousin Clifton.
Yeah, and also just the whole concept of like,
also, entails are
well, they're like illegal, but they are. Wait, I don't want to get into too much of it deep. Never mind. Okay.
No, give a little entail history.
Okay, so entails, they seem like they're bad, right? However, there's actually some interesting research. So they're illegal in most states nowadays, but they were actually very useful back in the day to help like poor farmers, especially in the American South, keep their land, because the best thing about it, you can't sell it, which means you also can't have it taken away from you as payment for debt. So if you get in a ton of debt, the bank can't take your land. Like, you still keep that in your family. And so it was a way for like very poor people to keep some like measure of financial security. So
yeah,
it's not all bad, but it's kind of bad.
It is good in that extent, but it's bad in the extent that the aristocracy, you know, did all the enclosure acts and took a bunch of land and then entailed it, and then the poor people are like, we don't have any land of our own anymore. Now we must work for a pittance on the rich people's land. So positives and negatives. And the government still took all the aristocracy's like houses and lands during World War I and World War II anyway. They were like, thank you for the war efforts.
Yep.
You don't need 5 houses.
So where were we? Did you mention that about him going to Oxford?
Oh no, I guess let's just give the background of Robin's sort of mentality right now.
So Robin, we said they were a housemaid called Charity Church, who basically grew up with like no adult supervision with Robert Selby and his younger sister Louisa. They're all best friends. Robert's a dum-dum. He is not very smart. It's well established.
He likes working on the farm.
Yeah, he's just not he's not a book learner. He's not he's 19. He never fucking learned how to read, and then he got an influenza, basically. No, really, there's no indication.
No, I mean, that's it.
Yeah. So, but Charity/Robin is very, very smart, and Robert's like, you're so smart, like you need to go to school, you need to impersonate me and go to Oxford instead of me. And he like convinced them to do it. And then when Robin came back, Robert and Louisa both got very, very sick. Robert died, and Louisa, because of the aforementioned entail, Louisa would have been shit out of luck, because Robert, who can't read or do math apparently, didn't set aside anything for her.
No, because he's explicitly at one point, like, Robin is thinking that Robert was like, oh, she has her pretty face, that's her dowry.
Yeah, I know.
Like, pretty faces do not feed women.
No, he's a shithead. But so basically Robin selflessly continues impersonating him, and the plan is that they're gonna like save enough money for 2 years for Louisa to get 1 season, and then once Louisa's married off, Robin will just like quietly fade into the night, be declared dead, and let the cousin inherit. And this entire time, Robin has known that like they will be shit out of luck after this. Like, they won't be able to stay with Louisa. They'll have to start completely over. And then like around this time in the book, Louisa is like, Robin, I just thought, what are you gonna do when all this is over? And Robin's like, I'll figure it out. Louisa's like, it'd be great if you could come with me, but you can't. So you better figure out what you're going to do. Like, fucking, and it just Louisa, from the very beginning, Robin's only doing this to help Louisa, and it only gets worse. It only gets worse. The amount of shit that oh my God. Yeah, we're not going to, okay.
Listen, I just do want to point out that Louisa is a child. And I know in historical romance, we often are like, oh, she's 18, she's allowed to marry. Like, it's fine. Like, I feel like ages is kind of skewed in historical romance in a way that, like, if she was 18 in contemporary, we wouldn't be like, yeah, she's an adult. I don't know.
Whatever. I know she's a child, but so is Charity. And
no, I understand. Listen.
It's just the complete lack of like thoughts.
Yeah. No thoughts, just fought. I mean, literally the whole plot is the inciting incident of this book is kicked off because Robin is like, she's really pretty, but she's not that smart. But the lights are on, but nobody's home, and that's okay. What? She's like,
Louisa's dumb too.
Yeah, no, Louisa is the same as Robert, in which Louisa knows a lot about the farm, and she like knows how to manage the farm, and she knows a lot about soil. And not to imply that people who know a lot about farm, like, that is a form of intelligence. I'm not dunking on people, but Robin is like, she doesn't have any street smarts. Like, she doesn't book smarts, limited. She's just kind of dumb. Naive, I guess, is a better word. Like, she's just really naive.
Well, yeah.
Which is not necessarily all her fault, because she's been, like, really sheltered her whole life. So they're all hanging out more. I would just like to point out that there is a sassy butler named Keating that Robin and Louisa hang out with. Just remember him for later. He doesn't like he's not necessarily like a big role, but he's just like occasionally like makes the fun sassy comment, and I was like, that was a good one. And there's also Aunt Agatha, who's like the elderly aunt / like alleged chaperone, and Keating and Aunt Agatha are all in on the gag. Like they all know the lies, deception. They also make friends. Robin is like BFFs with Amelia, the oldest Allenby sister, and I just love that like everybody likes the Allenbys except for Alistair. He's just like so determined. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I was like a little bit, and at first I was like sucked into Alistair's like like I kind of saw it because I was like, I saw it of like as like a betrayal of like, imagine if your dad just like had a second family, you know, like you would, it wouldn't be, it would be, you know, your negative feelings would be most like fairly directed towards the dad and maybe the person they cheated with, not the kids, but still you would have like some resentment. But I feel like once we find out that it's like this, you know, he basically like separated from the mom, it's not like he was like simultaneously.
Yes. But I do understand, like, it is implied that, like, yeah, he was a good father to them, but he was not a present father to Alistair or to Gilbert. Like, Alistair, like, the same way that Robin is Louisa's mom, like, Alistair is Gilbert's dad in a lot of ways.
But then from Alistair's perspective, like, that's not even the reason he dislikes them. He's not even like, oh, this was a betrayal to me as your, like, original and, like, therefore most worthy son, you having these other kids. He's just like, he embarrassed us to society and he wasted all this money on them. Like, that's what it is. There's no implication of like
I don't know. I think that is as like a defense mechanism, because at one point later on he goes into the Allenby house and he's like, oh, I hear laughter and like happy voices, and like I've never experienced that. I never, like, I didn't have a mom, like my mom was emotionally distant, my dad was emotionally distant, like I did not have a happy childhood. So I think it is, a lot of it is like, because like you said, like his whole MO is like, I have to do exactly the opposite of what my dad would do in every situation. And so it's an overcorrection, and I think like a defense mechanism, because he's like, I, you know, never had anyone, which is like Robin and Alistair are very much the same. Like it's the same thing where Robin's like never had anyone they can lean on. Like emotionally, physically, in any way. And like Alistair also doesn't have that. And so they're like become that for each other.
Yeah, which is why at sometime around this point, Alistair has the thought, sometimes he forgot that other people had burdens, worries, crushing obligations. All right, Anthony Bridgerton.
However, Robin, I just want to point out, never ever takes any of Alistair's shit. Like every time Alistair is like being a little bitch, Robin is like, that was a dick thing to say, apologize. And then Alistair is like, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah.
He's like, you questioned my decision, apologize, grovel now.
You like, insulted right, great Aunt Agatha, apologize right now. You called me too skinny, fuck you, apologize.
Yeah. So they're hanging out, and they're hanging out at the club, I think, at this point. And Alistair's like, he's like, I forget, he's like, he has a thought, and he's like, wow, Robin, my friend Robin, I love hanging out with him. Even thinking Robin and friend in the same sentence gave him a pleasant thrill.
He's never had a friend before.
No.
He really doesn't have any other friends. Yeah, but then we just get like a general hangout. We just get some cute scenes. Like Alistair buys Robin a gothic novel so they can like chat about it together. And then one day, like Robin comes in from the rain and he's like all wet, and Alistair is like, take off that coat immediately. You're going to get ill. You're going to catch a chill. Like, do not. He's like absolutely furious. And Robin is like, can you like simmer down for like a second? And then they're kind of like holding each other. And Robin is like, dude, we can't like hold each other if anyone like sees us, like especially your servants, like, you know, they might get the wrong idea. And Alistair is like, I'm the bloody Marquess of Pembroke and I'll do what I want with my arms. This is just the one situation in which she's like, yeah, fuck yeah, like I'm gonna do whatever I want, and then he immediately gets over that. And now the heir has shown up. Cousin Clifton has shown up, and he's like, wow, you don't look anything like, I can't do the whatever accent he has.
Oh, fella, you don't look anything like, no,
like the Robert I remember. And then Robin is like, I had influenza. It really changes you physically. And Cousin Clifton's like, but he stomps off.
I mean, to be fair, he's like, oh, you were always such a brawny 8-year-old. And I'm like, all right, well, I feel like that's pretty common. Like, honestly, like it's so common for kids to like have their growth spurt early and then you stop growing sooner and you end up short.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
But apparently he used to look a lot like the cousin. Like,
yeah. And also because Robin's not that short. It's explicitly said that he's only like 2 inches shorter than Alistair.
Wait, no.
Yeah.
It's definitely multiple times. I remember.
No, he's slight. They're very thin.
Are you sure? Because I remember thinking like this would have been the perfect opportunity to have an actual tall heroine because then it would be like more easy to pass as a man.
No, they are definitely. I mean, I don't know how tall Alistair is, but Alistair is implied to like not be small. Maybe Alistair is just very broad, but at one point, I think it's during like the scene when like Robin is wet and Alistair is drunk, when he's explicitly thinking like, oh, Robin is like only 2 or 3 inches shorter than me.
Oh, interesting.
But Robin is very skinny.
No, I mean, I just noticed all the times they were like, comparing. Yeah, I don't know.
And in the background, Gilbert and Louisa are slowly falling in love, and Alistair is constantly like, Gilbert, when are you gonna fucking do something with your life? Like, get a job, man.
Yeah, and he's like, don't fucking marry Louisa. Yeah, like Gilbert comes to ask Alistair for advice, and Alistair's like, he knew he ought to ask Gilbert if Gilbert was all right, but he really didn't want to. So the night after the cousin shows up, Robin is like freaking out and just kind of like wanders over to Alistair's house, and he ends up reading to them just to like comfort them. And then we find out that Robin's like, oh, I love reading. Like I used to read all the time to Louisa and Robert and Robbie as kids, but like no one's ever read to me. Louisa preferred to sew while listening, and Robbie didn't like reading. And I'm like, all right, so fucking Louisa, like that's another mark against Louisa. Like, you're never gonna offer. I know Robbie can't read, but like, come on, Louisa.
But Alistair does, and then Robin falls asleep, and then Robin wakes up and is like, whoa, what's going on? And then they finally kiss. And Robin immediately is like, gotta blast after they kiss. He's like, gotta avoid this connection. Emotional intimacy, no diet, no dice, no good for me. And after that, Alistair, like, when Robin doesn't talk to him, Alistair just begins wasting away, like, immediately. He's like, life is meaningless without Robin to hang out with every day.
To sleep, to something, perchance to dream, like Edward in the crawl space.
He's just rolling around with the rats.
But he doesn't have long to mourn before he gets to be pissed off at Robin, because he finds out that based on when his dad was putzing off in Italy, it would have been chronologically impossible for his dad to have been Louisa's godfather.
I was like, is that a word? But right before this, I just want to note, like, he has an encounter with Mrs. Allenby again, and like Mrs. Allenby is constantly treating him like she's his mom, like she's like constantly being nice to him and like trying to provide emotional support. And his thought process the whole time is like, I don't need a mom or a parent. I'm a big boy. I'm like, oh, sir, you need a mother. Please allow her. So just note that. But yeah, so he finds out who's from solicitor that there's no way that his dad is Louisa's godfather. And he's more sad. He's like, Robin lied to me. Like, I'm so sad. My friend, Robin.
He's a liar. Basically, he's like, go get Robin right now. And Robin like immediately like skips on over. And Alistair confronts
really is like,
him.
I'm imagining like Puck from A Midsummer Night's Dream. Like, that's what Robin's doing. He's just like, da-da-da-da-da.
Smiling
like,
with too many teeth. Direct quote. Yeah. And Alistair's like, how could you fucking lie to me? Like, what was your plan, to blackmail me with our kiss? And Robin's like, I can't have him think that. And just confesses the entire like scheme. Robin's like, I couldn't have blackmailed you because I'm like anatomically a woman. And then he's like, fuck, I shouldn't have said that.
I like loved this Because I think most authors would have just had that secret be like the main conflict between them throughout the book. And even like maybe had like Alistair falling in love with Robin, like, and like some iteration of Charity like the whole time. And then like, oh, it's suddenly revealed at the end. Like that's the
You're
big
the same person, you mean?
right. But this is like the end of Act 1. Cat Sebastian was like, no, I'm not spending the whole book like having this lie between them. Like,
Yeah.
and I like it because it moves the conflict from like, okay, the conflict is not like us internally. I mean, it is still us internally being dumbasses, but it's more like the conflict is now like, how do we make our relationship work within the bounds of society rather than like, I've been lying to you the whole time.
Mm-hmm. And Alistair is still pissed at this point. But he's like, get out of my sight while I think about what to do. And then like after stewing about it for like 0.5 seconds, he's like, nah, that's it. I'm bewitched. I'll call them whatever name they want. I just want to hear their laugh. Like,
oh yeah. And Alistair also does have the revelation. He's like, I'm mad at Robin for tricking me, but also like my initial intention was to like trick them and Louisa into like embarrassing themselves. So like I don't have that much of a leg to stand on. And he pulls that good old aristocracy stick out of his ass. And he's like, I want to be friends with Robin again. Mostly because it is my ball and Robin is here at my ball. And Robin's ass looks so good in those trousers that I can't stop staring.
oh my gosh.
And then they go out into the garden, after a discreet look, like Robin goes off in the garden. Alistair is like, gotta follow him. And then Robin's like, are you gonna expose me or not? I'm tired of like waiting in this like limbo. And Alistair is like, if I'm going to expose you, I'll damn well take my time. Winky face. Robin is like, oh, that made me tingle all over. What is this? But then he's like, don't worry, I'm not gonna tell anyone.
And then they have a little makeout sesh / awkward dancing scenario where like they both
can't dance. Yeah,
they both only know the boy part. And well, I just thought of this. Robin was like, as if he would ever even try to learn the girl part. So I was expecting him to at some point, but he never did. Alistair, that is.
Honestly, I think I took that as the implication that he would one day, because he like Alistair's just such a simp for Robin at the end. Right, and like Robin loves dancing, so
yeah. But then they go back in and Alistair has to dance with Louisa for the, aforementioned promised dance. And Robin's like, like they're so much better at dancing than me and him. Like sad.
So the next day it's super crowded. Aristocracy is like a contagion, and Louisa has caught the bug, and so has the rest of the ton, and they're all there. And Robin is like, I want to cackle like a villain in a melodrama because my evil plan is working.
Oh my gosh. When did they have sex for the first time?
After this. So there's one other thing. So after the ball, like Alistair and like Robin don't see each other for like a week or something. And Gilbert is like, if you want to see Robin, like Robin always goes to Mrs. Allenby's salon, so you should go. And Alistair is like, I would never step foot in these salons except when I want to see my BFF Robin, because I cannot spend this much time away with him again without wasting the way. Like I've spent the last 6 nights rolling around in the attic, like just crying into the handkerchief that I stole from Robin's breast coat pocket the other night.
Yeah.
And he shows up so he goes to Mrs. Allenby's salon. And like, this is important, but more importantly in this scene is that there is a man in the corner with a cat inside his coat the whole time. He's just there giving a speech. Yes!
That's called foreshadowing. Wait, but that means that then... Yeah, and he takes out his spectacles and is like staring around as if he's at the zoo, like watching all of them. My God. But that means that he has this thought that before they have sex. He's like, what if I married Robin? And he's like, no, a housemaid turned imposter could never be the Marquess of Pembroke. God forgive him for even formulating the thought. And like the number of times he has thoughts like this, I'm just like, he's staying snobby way too long for my taste. But
he's just, listen, the toxic masculine aristocracy. Like he's been infected. It takes a long, sometimes, Rachel, he has to recover. The aristocracy is a contagion. Like we said, it takes a long time. Like, when you get lice, it takes a while. You got to do multiple rounds of treatments to get it out. Like, he has long COVID, basically. It's taking him a long time to recover from this. He's only just got the shot for, like, when Robin entered his life. So yeah, they like, are flirting at the salon, and basically they're like, yeah, we're just gonna fuck like short term. And I'm like, as if that ever works. Okay, yeah. Dummies. But they do go home in his carriage, and this is when they fuck for the first time. And Robin gets naked, and Robin has like very, very small boobs. So like Alistair was like, oh, this whole time I thought like they were binding themselves, or like wearing some sort of, whatever, Reed Sierra bra. But no, like their boobs have just been out, and like the boobs have just been free this whole time. Like I didn't even know, like the whole time I was talking to them, their titties were just like living free.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Robin like takes off Alistair's spectacles, which he'd forgotten he was wearing. So I'm like, all right, so you really didn't even need them to see. You just did it to be snooty. Like,
no, he does.
No, he does.
Because he's constantly looking at small numbers in dark rooms. Like when Mrs. Allenby comes, she's like, "Why are you sitting here in the dark like a fucking gremlin? Like, I'm gonna open the curtain, like, you weirdo."
Yeah,
he really is Edward Cullen, just like in the dark.
So then they have sex, and he immediately runs away to the country
for 2 weeks and like doesn't tell anyone.
Yeah. No.
And Robin is like, note, carriage gone. You could have died.
You could have been seen. No, and isn't like this is at his house, right? He just like left Robin in his house.
No, Robin did sneak out early to like return. Like Robin left.
I thought he left.
Yeah, no, he didn't just leave Robin like in the bed. But he goes off to the country to brood, and Robin is like, he's off in the country brooding like a dog who has rolled in something like that it's curious about but is ultimately bad for it, like goose shit.
Maybe I won't use those words to him, but
and then Robin is like, when he comes back, I'll have to clean the goose shit off him and kiss him. It's fine.
And then so back, just like cut to the Louisa Gilbert real quick. Robin is like, Gilbert's like clearly all over Louisa. Like, I can't imagine why he hasn't made her an offer yet. And we never really get an answer on that, frankly. It's just another mark against Louisa.
No, so this whole time, Gilbert and Louisa are under the impression that like Robin and Alistair want Louisa to marry Alistair, and that they're like conspiring behind Louisa's back because like Robin is like a quote unquote obsessed with like getting Louisa a good match or whatever. And so the dummy is just like, there's just misunderstanding after misunderstanding, and Gilbert and like Louisa having one brain cell to like share between them.
See, I would give it a much less charitable reading.
While Alistair is brooding in the country, he's like, I have to propose to Robin. That's it. Like this is the only solution. And then he does. And Robin is like, go fuck yourself. That is the stupidest shit I've ever heard. Don't treat me like just because we like fucked that, now you have to do the quote unquote right thing. Also, like, I don't want to be a Marchioness. I would be really fucking bad at it. You would be like really ashamed of me the whole time. Like, I don't want to like put on dresses and like be a girly girl for the rest of my life. Like, I like kind of what I'm doing now. Mm-hmm. Fuck off. And I like that, like, it's like love doesn't conquer all. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like a lot of times it's like, oh, like there's kind of like hand wavy, like, oh, we'll figure it out. But this book is very much like, no, we are working out our problems before, like, we have to work out all our problems in like a really tangible way. And Robin's like, love is not going to make me compromise myself. Like, at this point, Robin is like, yeah, I love him, but like, I can't, I'm not going to continue loving him if I can't be myself while I do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so building off of the apparent misunderstandings, Ari, like literally everyone else, and Robin and Alistair.
Ow.
But it doesn't really make sense. So we said there's lots of ants floating around. Louisa and Robin, or Louisa's aunt, who's like their guardian or whatever, comes and talks to Robin and is like, same as Louisa. She's like, oh, Robin, what are you going to do when this is over? She's like, oh, young Robert did you a disservice when he raised you above your station. Like, I wish I knew what would become of you when all this is over. I can't possibly help you. But so, which makes me question, like, does the aunt know the truth that we won't
Yeah.
reveal
No,
yet?
it's explicitly said.
So then how dare she? Like, what do you mean? She should
Oh,
have, like,
the truth that we didn't reveal yet.
yes.
No, I don't know about that. I thought you meant the truth about.
Like, this is like another member of the family that she's risking everything to help save, saying it's not their problem what happens to Robin after what happens to them after it's over. It's like, what will you do after you're done risking your life to help me? What will you do?
But yeah, they have a whole conversation, which is another misunderstanding about where Robin is like, yeah, Alistair proposed, but like doesn't clarify that it was proposed to me and not to Louisa. So Aunt Agatha's like, oh no, Robin's gonna force Louisa into doing this. So she gives her a fucking drugged drink.
Yeah, sleeping
laudanum?
draft.
She gives her a sleeping, and she does say it's a sleeping draft, but she gives her like a really fucking heavy dose that like knocks Robin out. And then on the opposite side of town, Alistair's really drunk because once again he's sad that Robin's rejected him, and like Gilbert picks him up, and there's another misunderstanding in which Gilbert thinks that like Alistair's like, yeah, I proposed, and Gilbert's like, you didn't even ask Louisa, and he was like, why would I ask Louisa?
Yeah.
So Gilbert and Louisa are both like, fuck, like they're gonna try to make Louisa marry Alistair. So Alistair is drunk, so he doesn't need to be given like laudanum to knock him out. But Gilbert and Louisa elope with Aunt Agatha. But Aunt Agatha is quickly like, I'm not traveling 2 weeks to Scotland. That like seems really dumb. So you can just drop me off like at my friend's house.
Yeah, and Robin wakes up, finds out that Louisa and Gilbert have eloped. And their first thought is like, oh, poor Louisa. Like, she's going to feel so guilty for drugging and lying to me. Over my dead body is she going to spend weeks of guilt and sorrow thinking that she's gone against my wishes. I have to follow them and make sure she doesn't think that. Instead of like, she's like, how could Louisa think this of me? Like, she does think that, but we never get an explanation. And it just comes down to Louisa thinking, like, being raised and still perpetuating the belief that the whole world revolves around her. Because, like, she literally just assumes, like, oh, there could be no other reason why Robin and Alistair could be spending so much time together except to discuss me. It must be all about me.
Well, to be fair, none of them think that Alistair would accept Robin. Like, they don't think Alistair, like, knows.
Yeah, but still, like, there could be no other reason. And, like, she thinks that badly of Robin. We're given no explanation for that. Like, yeah, Gilbert's a dummy and doesn't know Robin, but like Louisa does. And Louisa like obviously does not give two shits about Robin.
Yeah,
like,
we
literally
like,
never won.
I'm like, Robin, like, I mean, clearly Louisa doesn't care that much. Otherwise she would have like actually tried to like talk with you about this before.
Right. And
leaving.
Robin
like,
kept
I don't
saying
understand.
like Louisa's my sister, like we're family. And I kept, but that was never from Louisa. And I just kept waiting for the moment of like Robin having to realize that no, like this is just the family that you were literally sold to as was she even paid as a 10-year-old? Like was she literally a slave? Literally like she was sold to them to raise their kids for them. And then she took that on as if they were actually her kids when they weren't, and they don't care about her at all. This is fucked. I don't know.
Like, I don't think it is a sister relationship. At all. I think it's very much mother, teenage daughter, and this is the teenage daughter rebelling. Like, that's much more the dynamic. But I also, like, I do extend some grace to Louisa because I'm thinking of the fact that if this book were about Louisa and Gilbert and like Robin and Alistair were the sub relationship or the B plot, then we would be on Louisa's side. We'd be like, yeah, of course you have to run away. Like, you're going to be forced to marry this guy that you don't like.
Not after we found out what fucking Robin went through to get her there. And like,
yeah, but I don't think that we would have like gotten that internal thing. Like, I think we would.
It's not internal. It's the cold hard facts. Nothing about it is internal. It's all out in the open.
Yeah.
No, and I do have some sympathy for Louisa just because, again, this is how she was raised. She is literally
no other frame of reference.
Right. But it's like I wanted Robin to realize that like this is not the like. I just wanted her to realize that her loyalty to the Selbys was not warranted. Like, she deserves better.
They don't have the
she
same
deserves a real
her.
family.
And they get it. You know, Robin does get it at the end. Like, they don't have that realization, but they are like, I don't know, wherever. Like, I know Gilbert and Louisa end up in Kent on a farm, but like, I mean, I forget where like the Pembroke country seat is, but presumably it's like more than like, you know, a day's ride away. So they are like separated from Louisa in I think a very healthy way.
Yeah, the main conceptual thing though, I think for me is that I wish less of it had centered around Alistair's growth and Alistair realizing, like, because it's not just Robin, but he looks at Robin and he's like, this is someone who really cares about their quote unquote siblings and like will do anything for them. I should be more like that. And that's nice.
Yeah.
But I needed Robin to realize I did not need to be completely, I deserve just as much love and care and like resources as anyone else. You know, I don't owe these people anything. If anything, they owe me reparations. Like,
yeah. I mean, I think there is an element at the end, and maybe I'll be able to articulate this better when I get to that point in my notes, in which because ultimately Robin is the one that, I mean, not like makes the grand gesture, but like has to like ultimately go, you know, get Alistair back, you know, because like Robin is the one who has to like apologize last.
Yeah.
And I think Robin like does like that's the point where Robin does have a realization where they're like, oh, I don't have to do everything myself. Like I can rely on other people. And I have like this man who loves me and will do anything to like protect me and make me happy. And I don't have to like shoulder all this burden. So there isn't like, it's not specifically in relation to Louisa. It's more like Robin being like, okay, I'm not by myself anymore.
Yeah. So Robin goes galloping off.
On Alistair's horse.
Because
Alistair wakes up.
Alistair wakes up and he realizes the horse is stolen. And he's like, oh, this is excellent. A horse thief? I'm even more aroused.
He's like, my fastest horse?
As he should.
So, but then Alistair is like, well, shit, I gotta go after them too because it's about to rain and these dummies are all gonna get wet. And you know how much Alistair hates when Robin gets wet. You know, like that was foreshadowed as well. Like he doesn't like when Robin gets caught in the rain. And before this, Alistair is like, because Gilbert is like, what if I was a farmer? And Alistair is like, dude, like what? You know nothing about farming. That's like fucking stupid. Like when are you gonna have like an acre and a mule? Like that's just not gonna work. But so Alistair is like, okay, fine. He wants to be a fucking farmer. He obviously wants to marry Louisa. Like I'll give him one of like my estates and like he can run that. So he like he's like about ready. He like sends a note to Gilbert. He's like, hey Gilbert, come over here and sign the legal papers to like sign it all over to your name. And then the butler comes back, is like Gilbert's manservant is like, well, he left this morning and he said he was going to Scotland. And Alistair is like, God fucking damn it. Like they're about to go, and let's say anything to Robin, he's like, they're about to go on an unnecessary 2-week journey when they can literally not go all the way to Scotland in a bumpy carriage and just get married here. Like this is so stupid. Also, I refuse to be the villain of this story. Like I'm not, like that's so dumb. So he putzes off. We flash forward to Robin. They see an overturned carriage, and it's of course Louisa and Gilbert's carriage, and Louisa has hit her head and Gilbert has broken his arm, and Robin is like, oh, come on, you dummies, like I gotta get you over to the thing. But I just want to so I haven't like been mentioning the parallels to Frederica here because they're not really relevant, but I just want to bring up the one here because I think it's really funny. In Frederica, the parallel incident is that one of Frederica's little brothers, like they went to go see a hot air balloon like rise in Hyde Park because that was like an activity in the Regency era. And the little brother like really likes like inventions and like knowing how things works. So one of Frederica's little brothers like holds on to the hot air balloon rope, gets like pulled up into the sky, ends up traveling like 20 miles, and then eventually falls off into a tree and like just gets really injured. But I just like Cat Sebastian was like, I'm not gonna be that silly. Like I've been following Frederica pretty well up until now, but we're not gonna do a hot air balloon ride accident. Like no.
A freak gasoline fight accident.
Okay, anyway. And then and now Robin is like, now I have to change into charity clothes because otherwise they won't let me like take care of Louisa when she's sick, which I don't really understand because like they think that Robert Selby is Louisa's brother. So like why would it be untoward for her brother
in an
to take care of her?
emergency?
Basically all you have to know is that Robin is like very uncomfortable wearing a dress. Like they're like, this is the worst and I do not feel like myself at all. And in fact, neither does Alistair, because when Alistair arrives, he walks in and he's like, I gotta find Robin. They could be dead in a ditch somewhere. And they're like, you person, maid tending Louisa, give me 5 minutes with Louisa. I gotta like question her. And then Robin looks up and is like, what? Like, are you fucking kidding me? And Alistair was like, good ye gads, it's you.
So obviously Robin like refuses to leave Louisa because of her aforementioned parentification, etc. But Alistair sticks around and sends like various gifts over to the cottage. Like I was unclear on like why, but he wrangles a goose and like sends it over
for dinner.
And then Louisa is like, it's a pet. And then like after that he's like, oh well, apparently apparently fowl are good like gifts around here, so I'll send over some chickens too, like to keep the goose company.
But he also sends Robin a few gifts. He sends them books because he knows they love to read. And then he also sends them 2 dresses because they're like, he's like, I know you need to wear a dress right now, but I also recognize that like you're very uncomfortable. Like when he sees Robin in a dress, he's like immediately like, oh my God, like they hate wearing this. Like they look so uncomfortable. And he's like the only one that ever recognizes that in Robin. But he does send her 2 dresses, but they're not frilly. Like they're very like plain. They're basically like the most gender neutral dresses that you can have. And they also match Robin's eyes. And Robin is like, I mean, I still feel like I'm in costume, but like this was really nice. Like he like figured out my measurements too, which like I don't know how he did that, but he did. Yeah. He got me custom made dresses.
Oh my God. And then the lady who like runs the cottage they're staying at, she's like, yeah, he keeps sending over these gifts. Like it just goes to show that even though the lordship has a face that looks like he smelled something terrible, you can't judge by appearances. Yeah. Oh my God.
He also eventually sends over like a few waistcoats, breeches, cravats, and like this green coat because he's like, I know this is what you prefer to be wearing, which is very nice. And then he has a whole conversation with Gilbert, and we get a Bluebeard reference.
I was about to say.
He's like, what did you think I was Bluebeard?
He's like, what do you think of yourself as some kind of Bluebeard, luring innocent girls to their doom? Because he's like, how could you like put Louisa in risk or whatever? Like also Robin.
And then Alistair's butler shows up because Alistair had asked him to do some digging on like Robert Shelby and someone named Charity Church. And so Alistair's butler shows up and is like, Robert Shelby was married to Charity Church. And also in his will, he gave his widow £1,000. And so Alistair naturally confronts Robin about this, but he's like not judgmental. He's like, why did you? He's just trying to like comfort them. And Robin is basically like, well, because Robert was a fucking dumbass and he didn't leave anything in his will for his sister. And like, I didn't. And I have been so parentified / like, honestly, I would say like Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah.
By this family that like, I couldn't do anything. I mean, listen, it is admirable that Robin, it is admirable because Louisa, like Robin is like, Louisa was 16 when Robbie died. She would not have been able to support herself. She wouldn't have been able to do anything. So I do like it. I feel like there is something admirable.
It's implied that they could have lived off of that. Both of them. Even it, like if Robin wanted her charity, her generosity to extend to like supporting Louisa, she could have done that. But Robin specifically like, besides, what would £1,000 do for her? That would not be nearly enough for a girl who had been brought up to be a lady. So it's not even like enough for Louisa to have a roof over her head. Yeah. She's like doing it so that Louisa can have her like fancy schmancy like aristocracy life. Yeah. That's why. So that she can like have all the privileges that she's accustomed to thanks to Robin.
And basically Alistair is like, there's the same usual arguments, but Alistair is like, have you like ever maybe asked Louisa if she wanted you to do all this stuff for her?
We find out for sure that Louisa knew they were married, but we don't know if she knew about the will.
I don't think she did.
I don't know.
I feel like that's
wouldn't
pretty
put
clear
it past her.
I don't think she did.
And then Robin's like, I hadn't even felt entitled to grieve when Robbie died. Like, what was I but a servant who had landed in Robbie's bed? I'm like, you were his freaking wife. Like, what?
Oh, you guys got married.
You were his wife. And Louisa's still like, what will you do, my fucking sister-in-law? Like,
yeah.
What a bitch. Are you kidding me? I just can't. And the aunt too. Like, does the aunt know about the marriage? That's what I was saying before. Like, does the aunt know? Because then, like, what nerve? Like, oh, elevated you above his station. It's his fucking wife. Like, that was the, like, what? Does the aunt know about the will? Does the aunt, like, was she not at all curious?
Yeah. Robin has just been so, I mean, I don't even want to say manipulated because I don't think it was done on purpose, but it was like, they've just like gaslit themselves into like thinking that they don't deserve the things that they deserve. Fortunately, they do get them everything at the end because this is a romance and everyone gets a happily ever after. Woo! And then, like, Alistair is basically like, listen, you're going to marry me. We're going to, like, we're going to do Robert's death. And then, like, you're going to live as, like, Charity. And Robin is like, you don't understand that, like, Robert Selby is, like, not a role for me. You know what I mean? It's like who I am. You know, it's not just, like, a set of clothes that I put on. But then Robin also doesn't realize that Alistair is, like, literally willing to, like, change his entire life for them. Robin's just like, oh no, you'd be so embarrassed. And Alistair is like, I love you. What the fuck? And then also just Alistair this whole time is like, don't worry, we'll get married. Like, I'll figure out how to make it work. But just like, it's inevitable.
Yeah,
like,
he just keeps bringing it up at random times. Like, when we're married, yeah.
He's like, when we're married, like, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Robin is like, oh my God. So Robin is like, okay, I got a dip. I'm going to get Louisa and Gilbert they still got to get married in Scotland because I don't want Louisa's, like, marriage to rely on a forged signature, which it would basically, like, if, you know, Robin signed it, and that could potentially, like, invalidate the marriage because, like, Louisa needs a guardian signature, but, like, they don't need that in Scotland. So they putz off. Robin all dip, and Alistair's once again like, I bought you a fucking special license. Do you understand how expensive those things are? Like, I called in a lot of favors for this. Also, Robin took my horse again. So they putz off, but Robin's also like, yeah, I'm going, because I, like, wanna, because of the special light, because of, like, the signature thing, but also because, like, I just want to disappear, and so I'm gonna go disappear
and quote unquote set things right. And they go back to the family home because, like, for some reason not for some reason, they're, like, really attached to it, and they whenever see it again.
Goodbye.
And Keating the butler, told you to remember him, is waiting there. And Keating's like, dude, like, why don't we just keep this up? Keating's like a minor, like, he's just, like, down for anything. Like,
it's constantly like, I cannot wait for us to run off together and start living our life of crime. Like, I'm so excited.
Earlier they had some kind of conversation where Robin's like, oh, we're gonna have to start over, and Keating's like, why do you sound sad about that? Like, I'm psyched. I've been ready. Like, and so they had this whole conversation where they basically, like, loudly proclaim, like, all the details of their deception, and then somehow, don't question it, but out from the shadows of the kitchen of the house steps the cousin who's supposed to have inherited, and he's like, I've gotcha. He's like, I knew you weren't Robert. I fucking knew it. You know why? Because you were too damn smart. Robert was so fucking dumb as a kid. I knew there was no way his IQ could have gone up this much.
He's like, he didn't know how to read, and I explicitly saw you reading one day. I sent you a letter and it was a test and you failed.
Oh my God. And he's like, yeah, I don't really care how you do it, but I need a death certificate for Robert and I need it now. And then you can do whatever you want after that.
Right. No, he's basically like, and then you have to disappear because, like, everyone would recognize you. And so Robin is like, fine.
Yeah, this has been the plan the whole time. I just want to say, this has been the plan the whole time for Robin to, like, fake Robert's death and disappear. But, like, for some reason in the middle third of this book, it's, like, treated as impossible without somehow besmirching Louisa's name. Like, it's just very like weird. I don't know. It's possible.
Think it's impossible. It's impossible to do anything but, like, dip and never talk to anyone again.
Yeah. It's like
without like dragging Louisa into. Yeah. I mean, Louisa would be prosecuted for fraud. You know, that would be a thing. But so Robin is like, okay, fine. Like, we're gonna fake a drowning. Keating's gonna testify to it. Like, you'll get your death certificate. It'll be all good. And so Alistair gets a little newspaper thing, and he's like, God damn it, that was my idea, you sneaky bastard. But he's also like, oh my God, like, Robin's probably halfway to India by now, this is so fucking stupid, like, I need to find them. But he's also, like, come to the realization where he's like, wow, I'm spending so much money on the people that I love, just like my dad. Wow, maybe my dad was right maybe
it's not recklessness, it's generosity. This is what money is for. And Alistair's heart grew 2 sizes that day.
He's like, but he's literally like, what is money and power for but to, like, take care of the people that you love? He's like, why the fuck am I being such a cheapskate? He, like, goes down, like, the household accounts, and he's like, wait, like, I have a lot of money, and, like, I could be using this to do something, like, good for the people that I care about. So he gives his 3 half sisters dowries.
Better than dowries, just money that they'll get when they come of age. Yes, so it'll be, like, their personal money.
Yes. And then he, like, hangs out with his sisters, and, like, Mrs. Allenby is like, welcome to the family, bro. And she's just, like, fully, like like is his
Adopts
mom.
him.
Like
Yeah.
she finds out that like Robert Selby's allegedly dead because Amelia and Robin were like friends, and so like Alistair told Amelia and was like clearly very upset about it. So Mrs. Allenby is like, oh my god, my son is in trouble, and like she goes and like holds him to her bosom and, you know, comforts him and whatever. They have like a cute little relationship, and like Alistair finally has a family. And then would you like to do the kittens?
Meow meow. So he's like, Mrs. Allenby had adopted him, and there was no reversing the process. The girls also dropped off a box of kittens, and they have to be fed drops of milk.
But he only keeps one. I guess they take the rest away.
He's like, they should have been drowned. It reflects badly on her household administration. So despite thinking that the kittens should have been drowned, he's like, somehow I've ended up with a kitten. Oh no.
And I have to hand feed it.
Ride around in my pocket at all times, which is so cute.
He really does. Like that's literally, he keeps the cat like on his shoulder, like a parrot, but like a cat.
Yeah, which I never understand how that how do people do that? There used to be an old man in our, not even old man, there used to be a man in our old neighborhood who would ride around on his bike with this cat on his shoulder. And when we were cat sitting like 2 weeks ago, I mean, I wouldn't have like actually put that cat on my shoulder because she was like not trained to do it, but I was just like seeing if she would fit, and just like logistically, I don't think a cat would like fit on my shoulder, you know? I guess if they want to, they'll make it work.
Yeah. I mean, because she could fit on that window ledge when she would like look outside.
That's true.
You know, if they want to, they will.
Yeah.
She just didn't want to be on your shoulder. Also, this guy, like, he has like literally a newborn kitten. It can fit in the palm of his hand.
Yeah.
It can certainly fit on his broad shoulders while he like, you know, takes care of it 24/7.
And he's like, I'm not going to give it a name. It will just be Cat for now.
He's like, I can't get attached. I can't. I am very attached. Definitely not already attached. The name means that I am not yet attached.
I have definitely not settled what remains of my dying happiness now that Robin is gone on this tiny creature whose lifespan is a fraction of my own.
He's like, I have definitely not left all of my worldly possessions to this cat. Not to my brother, not to my aunts, not even to my royal butler. No.
We all know what Robin would do with like a bequest in the will anyway. Like he's already squandered it once.
No. It's not that Robin squandered the inheritance. It's that Robin just never took it out from the bank. It's just been sitting, I guess, accruing interest this whole time.
Well, he hasn't been declared dead yet, so nothing. There would be nothing.
Oh, yeah, that's true. During one of the cat's many daily feedings, he gets a letter from his housekeeper at his country estate, and the country estate housekeeper is like, some lady showed up with this like really rude manservant. Like he's like, I don't know what's up with this guy. And they said that they're cataloging the library. So like, is that like, did you ask them to do that? Or did I just let like randos into your house? And Alistair is like, oh my God, it's Robin. And he got a blasts out there so quickly that he doesn't even have time to remove the cat from his pocket. And so he takes the cat with him all the way on this, like, presumably at least half a day's journey in the carriage. What? He's just, like, cuddling with the cat.
Is there a portable litter box? Like, what's up with that?
No, the cat just pees in his pocket. You know, clothes were much better quality back then. So, like, it's like it's absorbent. He has a little, like, leather lining in the pocket for the cat to do its business in. Maybe he just holds it out the window. Yeah, every few hours.
I hope that really there isn't a lot of traffic. It's gonna be like hitting the they didn't even have windshields. It's just hitting like the coachman behind them. Like,
Rachel, except this carriage is going like max 15 miles per hour. I don't think that's strong enough to like send the pee flying back into the tailgating coachman.
If it's fast enough to make your uterus fly around, it's fast enough for cat pee.
It's not. No. The uterus flying around was only a problem with the trains.
25.
That's when you need to be worried for your cat.
That's a good point. Yeah. And the coachman behind, if you care about them.
Here's a question about the uterus flying around thing. Do you think that they thought that applied to animals too? Like female animals?
There were no thoughts involved. There were no real thoughts.
I just feel like somebody must have like taken the delusion that far.
I don't know. I don't really.
Or they're like, oh no, I can't transport my female horses on the train because like her uterus may fall out.
or like get misplaced. Do they think it would like actually fly out or like just
I mean, it could
move
potentially
around?
fly out. They know the baby can come out, so clearly like other things could potentially come out too.
That makes no sense. It's not even in the movement of the velocity of the train. What?
Rachel, none of it makes sense.
In the direction of the movement.
I'm currently trying to like role play as like an insane 19th century misogynist right now. I'm trying to get into their minds. Alistair arrives and finds Robin. And I love that the first thing he says when he sees Robin is not like, "Oh my god, there you are. I love you. Ah, I found you at last." It's, "Why are you wearing a dress?" Because like even that he's like I don't understand why you keep putting on dresses. Like I will not allow it. You are very uncomfortable in dresses, and all I care about, I only care about two things in this world, and it's your comfort and this cat. Okay, that's it.
Yeah. And then Robin's like, well, some like stupid thing about like how I want to get married, so I have to look marriageable or something.
Basically, Robin is like, "Hey, I'm sorry. It was pretty rude of me to dip and then fake my own death." And then Alistair is like, "Wait, by faking your own death, like, did you actually like almost drown?" And Robin is like,
no, Robin, no, wait. Alistair's like, why did it take you so long to come back or something like that? And Robin's like, well, like after the boat accident, I had to like dry off.
"Oh, it's the
and like
dress.
get
It's the
new
dress."
clothes.
No, Alistair's like, "Why are you wearing the dress?" And Robin is
Oh.
like, "Well, because I fell off the boat in the like that nice gentleman's outfit that you gave me, and it got ruined. So
And
I had to put
Alistair's
on
like,
the dress."
you committed to the bit to that level. You actually jumped into the fucking river.
You couldn't just have like Keating on the shore being like, "Oh, I saw him go it." Like, who's gonna
Right.
verify that?
Oh my god.
Robin is a method actor. Like Jared Leto, Daniel Day-Lewis, eat your heart out. Robin is here. Like Tony, like EGOT status confirmed.
Insanity.
Robin once again is like, "Okay, so I do love you and I want to get married, but once again, I need to emphasize it's going to be super scandalous for us. It's going to be super scandalous for our kids. Everyone's going to be a dick about it. Like, you need to be cool about everyone being a dick about it. Are you sure you're going to be cool?" And Alistair is like, "What the fuck do you think I've been doing this whole month that you've been gone? Other than feeding this kitten, I've been like taking fencing lessons. Like I have a broadsword hidden on me at all times. I can hand-to-hand combat. Like I'm ready to fight anyone who is even a little bit mean to you. Someone says they don't like the color of your outfit, punch him in the face."
Incredible. Just like A+ grade A. Like Robin's like, like I told you I was a method actor and you like decided you had to one up me. Like by just committing to the bit. Anyway, they get married. Everything's great.
We do have one last wonderful scene where Alistair threatens Clifton and he's like, "So Robin's not going to go to India and like never talk to anyone again. We're actually going to get married and you're going to say that you were in on it the whole time. And if you don't, again, I am ready to fight anyone. And maybe you'll be the next Selby to drown. What do you think about that?" And it is a threat. It is a fully threatening conversation because Alistair is sitting on his desk with the cat in his lap, like stroking the cat like a fucking like Austin Powers Bond villain. And he's like, "Oh, yes.
Oh my god.
I will feed you to my piranhas and or my cat if you ever go near my wife again."
Yeah, this is all after Clifton had the nerve to make that baseless threat of like dragging Alistair into it, like to Robin. When it wouldn't have made any sense.
No, yeah, Robin mentioned that Robin was like, "Oh, Clifton like was gonna drag you into it." And Alistair is like, "Bro, Clifton is a poor. Let me impart some knowledge about Regency era British legal systems. The aristocracy were not tried in the regular courts. They were tried by all their best buds in the House of Lords. So unless you literally murdered someone, nobody is going to punish you for it if you're an aristocrat, which is not a good system. But in this specific case, like Clifton has no grounds to stand on."
No, but it also just doesn't make any sense. Like it doesn't make it like what this random person that you just made friends with in the past few months. Like I'm somehow gonna like
He was
get
in
them
on the
nabbed
fraud
for your like literally what like 6 years old fraud. The mind boggles. Anyway, Clifton's out.
Whatever. He's finally inherited, and like that's all he really wanted in the end. So he,
Puts us off. Although I would be pretty pissed if I was Clifton. To be fair.
I would definitely piss. But again, I mean, we talked about this earlier. Like, I don't pity Clifton. There's never a point where I'm like, oh no, the poor man doesn't have his entailed land.
Yeah, especially because also, well, that's the thing. Wait, I forgot to mention this, but Clifton was supposed to be Robert's guardian. So, like,
oh yeah,
Clifton was neglectful in his duties, and that's like part of like if Clifton had been doing his job, then he would have been like, "Hey, Robbie, you're a dumbass, and you're like 16 years old. We're gonna save some money for your sister's dowry." Like,
yeah,
and then this all would have been avoided. So, like, really,
or he just would have known when Robbie died in the first place, and like this whole scam couldn't have happened.
Right, but if he had been a good guardian to begin with,
he wasn't doing his fiduciary duty, and this 6-year scam was his fine, essentially.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, so never mind. All right, clean our hands of that one.
What? We'll wipe our hands of this. I'll wipe it on the slick white fur of the cat as I kiss her good night. And with that, the cat says good night. And now the cat is asking you to rank this book on the cat scale.
Well, it honestly wasn't very high on the cat scale at all until the very end. There was like one line that I wrote down of like her like wanting to rub her head against him like a cat, but like resisting or something, but
yeah, there definitely were like a few other cat lines in the beginning that I now can't remember. I'm just gonna assume there were a few other cat references.
I don't think there was anything.
Like a handful, smattering.
It was very strong at the end. It was just like overwhelming at the end, and that's like the note you go out on. And I feel like ordering does matter. Order does matter.
Right. We got like the finale was a full cat finale.
Lest we forget. What is the author's name of this fucking book?
My god! This is the first time this is ever factored in. We've never got to include the author's name. Cat Sebastian. I feel like that's even like a point and a half because you have cat and then like Sebastian is like seafood and like which is cat adjacent.
Yeah, it just feels cat-like. Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
like at least a 0.5.
Is it actually seafood? What does it have to? It feels.
I'm thinking of the Little Mermaid. It's the crab from the Little Mermaid. That's why it's seafood. It's Sebastian from the you're trying to like go into the etymology of the word Sebastian, and I'm like, no, it's the little red Jamaican crab from the Little Mermaid. Okay, so we have 1.5 for author name alone. We do have the presence of a literal cat who I would say plays a pretty important role in the finale.
Oh, for sure. And it's the flavor it leaves with you,
Yeah, like you leave with a little fishy flavor.
You come off, yeah. You start off, if you had this book, you would start off, you would see the word cat right on the front. You would end the last page, see the word cat right there.
And I would say, we definitely said one of them's a cat. Who do we say? Did we Alistair or Robin? One of them is definitely a cat.
Alistair is a cat.
Alistair is a cat. Robin, you know what it is? Wait, this is what it is. So it's, okay, bear with me. The Aristocats, right? The movie The Aristocats is like fancy, clean, white cat and like rascal tomcat who fall in love and like go on adventures. So Robin is the rascal tomcat and Alistair is the clean white cat. Oh no, wait. At one point Alistair is described as a dog rolling around in goose shit. I did remember that. He's like half cat. He's like CatDog. Remember that show?
Because he has to be self-sufficient. How could I forget that show?
CatDog.
Okay.
3, 2, 1, 7. 6.5. Nice. I feel like we've gotten a lot of 6.5s recently. Maybe I'm just making that up.
I don't know. I always forget like immediately what I get.
Hey, Rachel, where can they find us?
Boo! I will not be doing the socials.
It's your turn.
I'm sick.
Where can they find us? Where can they find us, Rachel?
You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at We Read It One Night. You can find us on TikTok, once again, new and improved, at We Read It One Night. You can find us on Twitter at We Read It Podcast.
At We Read It Podcast.
You can find us on Gmail, We Read It One Night at gmail.com. And finally, that's it. That's all she wrote.
I was trying to see whether you were gonna like somehow think of another. You can make sure to rate and review us if you're listening somewhere that allows you to rate and review, particularly on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Spotify is catching up in terms of number of ratings to Apple Podcasts, despite Spotify only allowing ratings for like the last few months. So Apple Podcasts folks, don't let Spotify win.
Catch you with pull a Skype on you.
Keep the arbitrary rivalry going. And also on Apple Podcasts, make sure you leave us a review. And for this week's episode, if you want to show that you have left a review along with your rating while you were listening to this week's episode, you can leave.
I just feel like cat is always the answer.
Yeah. Tell us, which character in this book would you name your cat for? An acceptable answer is Cat, the kitten character. Just letting you know. Also, you can put what book you want us to do next in your review, or you can email that to us or DM us.
Or comment it on a post.
We got a lot. This is going to be a summer of listener suggestions. We got quite a few coming up. So send them in, friends. Comrades.
Get in on the ground floor. For one small investment of a comment on Apple Podcasts, you too can get in on the ground floor.
And don't forget to check out our merch, which we have now.
Woo!
And you can purchase. We have t-shirts and mugs and stickers.
Woohoo!
Some of them are pretty cool. Once I start living in a place where I can safely order things to my door without them potentially getting stolen, I will be purchasing some merch.
Godspeed, comrades.
Godspeed.